Hello everyone, Courtney here. We all have busy lives, and a lot of us seem to very eagerly overcommit to things. But what type of damage could that do to us? Could it cost us our dreams? Welcome to episode number 9. Let's get into it.
Where inventing, passion, and hard work intersect. Welcome to the Serial Inventing Podcast. Bite-sized, perspective-altering episodes on serial inventing and beyond. From motivating key tips on product licensing to obstacle-busting conversations on transitioning to a full-time serial product developer. Buckle your seatbelt, because you're in for a ride. Warning, this podcast may motivate you to make wild decisions that will propel you forward in your inventing career and hijack more of your time for your passion. If you aren't ready to make it happen, then this podcast isn't for you.
I was a straight A student. I cared about my education and worked hard to get good grades. That often meant at least 5 hours of homework every night during high school. I wish I could say that I was one of those people who just got things easily and skated by, but that wasn't me. In school, my classmates often asked me for help and was amazed at how well I could explain it to them. After all, true proof of knowing something is if you can teach it. They would always say I always just got it so quickly. But that was very far from the truth. I sacrificed my time to get that. At home, it was hours and hours of hard work and tears trying to understand the material. It reminds me of the iceberg analogy, that what people see is only what is above water, and it's just a sliver of the iceberg. After graduating high school, I went to a community college for 3 years. I was also working and became an InventRight student during this time. Getting used to being a workaholic and overcommitting to things was ingrained in me, like it gets to be in many others. It was hard to keep up. Often we try to put out fires or get things done that have a deadline first, never getting to the stuff that really means something to us and doesn't have deadlines. If we use a tool to describe this, the Eisenhower matrix does it well. It is named after the 34th President, Dwight Eisenhower, who had to make many tough decisions on where he should focus his time each day. He invented the Eisenhower principle to place tasks in different areas through prioritizing levels of urgency and importance for each one. His organizational matrix works like this. The top left quadrant is filled with things that need to be done now. They are important and urgent. We call this the do first box. Things that have deadlines or are emergencies are often in this box. The top right quadrant is filled with things that you can do later, are not urgent, but still important, such as preparing something or developing a skill. We call this the do next box or do later box. The bottom left quadrant are things that are urgent but not important. That would be great to delegate, called the delegate box. This might be emails or maybe some work meetings. And then there is the bottom right quadrant, full of things not important and not urgent. We waste a lot of time doing busy work here. Maybe social media, trivial activities, and so on. This is the delete box. If inventing is your passion, it would be great to get activities related to inventing into the do next box. After all, they are important to us, but not necessarily urgent. And once you get the ball rolling, then those activities might become urgent, such as a meeting with a potential licensee. But many people shelve inventing after they've gone through the process and start pitching. It can go directly into the delegate box, which is urgent but not important. Or worse, into the bottom right box, the delete box, and their inventing career goes right into the abyss, never to be found again. I knew after going through InventRight that I wanted to be a serial inventor, yet continued to be frustrated with myself about why I just kept making unconscious decisions to get to it later. Later just never came for me. Yet I continued to become upset by my seemingly uncontrollable behavior of putting my passion second, trapped in the I'll do it tomorrow mental space. Tomorrow never comes, guys. I finally got fed up enough with myself that I just sat down and I did a bit of introspection. Why, Courtney? If you are so passionate about it, why does it always come last? Why? Apparently, it was never a priority. And then it hit me, a priority. I wrote down all of my priorities and still do at least twice a year to this day. To my shock, or I suppose not shock, inventing was at the bottom. And I tried to rationalize with myself why that is. Well, this always needs to be done first, and then this. And once that is done, I really have to do that, or I never will, and then etc., etc. It's hard to question a narrative when it's been ingrained in us for so long. And here I am, defending myself to myself. And then I asked myself a simple question: would I be okay with not getting a licensing deal ever? It was the easiest question for me to answer. No. No. So I wrote my priorities and placed them in the four quadrants in the Eisenhower matrix and stared at it. But I can't just stop doing those things, Courtney. I need to do those things. So, how could I find a way to slowly remove things that no longer served me to bring my passion towards the forefront? I looked in that bottom left quadrant delegation box. Everything in there is and should be things that you do that could be delegated. If I delegated them, they would still get done and off my list, moving inventing up it. So that's exactly what I did over the next 3 months. And then I started to clear out everything that I could in the other boxes that I either didn't want to do, didn't really need to do, or delegated out. It was hard going through that journey. It took me over a year to get there and also work up the courage to make some of those lifestyle changes. But I did it. Why? Because I wanted to make it in the industry. I wanted a licensing deal, and I wanted no obstacle in my way. I was amazed how my priorities list changed with inventing in the top 3, and it now has been for the past few years. Was it a bit painful to do that? Yeah. Was it necessary? Yes. And now I live my dream and help others at InventRight live theirs. I don't work. I get to play all day and currently have 7 licensed products because I chose to make licensing one of my priorities. When we don't look our schedule dead in the face, we don't realize how much stuff is packed in there that really doesn't have to be there. Licensing is very heavily, positively correlated with how much time you have and how efficient you are with that time. At InventRight, we teach you where to spend time and give you the knowledge needed to make it in the industry. But if you have 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week, it's going to take you a very long time to get a deal. How successful do you want to be? How much do you want to make it? Get a deal? Do you kind of want it? Do you want it a lot? You have to make lifestyle changes to get there. And if you don't want to make those changes by looking in that busy work lower right quadrant or delegating lower left quadrant, then I don't think you want it that bad. I really don't. I have a fair amount of students that say at various times during the process that they didn't have time that week to do the action items. I understand. Life gets in the way. It really does. And sometimes that urgent and important top left box overflows. It happens. And that's okay. These are actually the times I am not talking about. Now, when it continues to happen repeatedly for weeks and weeks that soon turn into months, that sends a signal. Licensing is not your priority. And this leads me to an anonymous quote that I think will really hit hard. It goes like this: Instead of saying, I don't have time, try saying it's not a priority and see how that feels. I'm not working on my growth, or licensing in our case, because it's not a priority. If it doesn't sit well, that's the point. How we spend our time is a choice. If we don't like how we're spending it, we can choose differently. That quote is quite impactful and stopped me in my tracks and reminded me of my own transformation journey to spend more time on what I love. When people say, I just don't have time, the way it comes across, it feels like they're saying it like it's uncontrollable. It's not them. Time got them last week, last month, last year. But where we spend our time is a decision we make every single second. It's our responsibility to make sure our priorities are on point. You can't have a lot of busy work in your life, even unbeknownst to you, and also want to spend time going to the gym, working, spending time with family, eating healthy, and also licensing. Something has to give. You can't have your cake and eat it too, especially when the things we eventually get rid of have no longer served us for a long time, but were embedded in us for so long. I visualize this as someone pulling back a bow slowly and carefully, eyes on the target, and letting the bow go, shooting an arrow, not knowing the arrow has a string connected to it that is also connected to the bow. Two energies are pulling in opposite directions. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense. Cut that string. We don't even know it's toxic, eating up our time. Take back your time. Licensing is a very time hungry industry, but it's also an incredibly rewarding industry. If anyone says, I don't have time to me, all I have heard is, I don't make it a priority, as in, my dream isn't very important to me. And if that's the case for you, then find a new dream that does become a priority, or start to feel how uncomfortable that statement is. My dream isn't very important to me. Those who are serial inventors, who know the process and are pitching many concepts every day, they must get their priorities in order because there are no cheat codes. If this is you, wanting to make your dream a reality, start here. Step 1: write down why this is your dream so you won't ever forget it and can look to it for motivation. Step 2: write down a list of your top 5 or so priorities in order. Step 3: go into the show notes and click on the first link, which is a printable empty Eisenhower matrix, or click on the second link to do a digital one. Step 4: think of all the tasks you do within a week or a month and place them within the 4 boxes. Step 5: look at how you filled it out and pick one thing to remove from the bottom left or right box through either delegating it or removing it from your life. Make a plan to visit this each week to try to remove or delegate things from it. Eventually, you will want to look at the top 2 boxes as well. Step 6: write down your top 5 or so priorities in order again and see if you can get inventing towards the top as you start to change your schedule. Step 7: schedule in with timers on your phone when you should be working on licensing each day or week. and add a buffer of time around it. Start to build a habit of working on your dream. Make it hard to not fail. Check out episode 6 for how to form a habit that works. If we want to make our dreams a reality, we need to protect the space and time it needs for us to be successful. Where people spend their time says a lot about their priorities. What do you want people to say about yours? Thanks for tuning in and taking a few bites with me today. And remember, serial inventors don't make excuses, they make it happen. See you soon.